here with Cass Cross. It's a bit of a tongue twister from our sustainability team, and I'm very glad to have her because she's one of the people from our team that's constantly pushing me to think differently about sustainability and to think about the issues into the future as well. So it's great to have you.
Thanks, Lex.
Now, I know you do many things in our organisation, but one of them is you look after the Youth Advisory Committee. And I must admit, I didn't know a lot about it till you briefed me. But tell us a bit about the Youth Advisory Committee and how we use them at AMP.
Absolutely. So the Youth Advisory Committee is probably my favourite part of my job, so I'm a bit biased. It's a great group of people to work with. And it's essentially a group of high-performing university students who are interested in ethical and sustainability issues. And we test ideas with them and their thinking around particular issues that might be important to our stakeholders and relevant to sustainability of our business. So we like to kind of see what they're thinking and then use that to kind of inform the things that we're working on as a team. And these are all brilliant students. They're really engaged and they're nominated by their universities. So we essentially go out to a university and ask them to nominate a student that they think is the right culture fit for the committee. And then we interview them, onboard them, and they get stuck into the sessions.
I'm amazed that we do this, and I love some of the things that are happening at AMP that's really challenging the way we've thought about the problems of today, but the problems of tomorrow as well. When I was reading through it, it really challenges my thinking as a slightly older person. But what have you learned about?
Oh, I've learned so many things from the committee, and I can see some areas where we definitely align and some areas where even, my 3 years in the business has made me start thinking different ways. But it's really good to continue to get that insight coming straight out of uni, being really passionate about big important issues, things like climate change that we talk about a lot in businesses now, and it's great to see that. It's something that they've worked through from even primary school. It's been raised for years. They're comfortable talking about the issue. They're passionate about it. And it's really great to try to bring that outside in perspective as well as kind of helping them understand how we look at it as a business as well.
Mm-hmm. So tell me about the people who come to this committee. Where are they from? What universities?
Yeah, so they're from all over Australia. We've also previously had a member from New Zealand as well, and I'm constantly recruiting to replace members as they graduate and go on to wonderful jobs. But at the moment, we've got students from the University of Sydney, UNSW, ANU, UniSA, so we get quite good kind of representation across a few different unis, but really wanting to make it so that we've got representation all across the Australian states and New Zealand as well, because that's where our business is, and we want to make sure that we're hearing the voices of students from those areas too.
Now, climate change is clearly a really important topic, and you can't read a newspaper or social media without talking about it, quite rightly so. But what are the other topics that are coming out at the moment? And I suppose for us as a financial services company, what's your learnings there from this group?
Yeah, great question. So even kind of linked to climate change, but emerging as a separate issue is this idea of biodiversity risk. And how businesses can contribute to that. So we hear about the development of things like the Task Force for Nature-Related Financial Disclosures, or the TNFD, and that's the next evolution of what we've seen happening with climate, where we're really starting to look at the impact of these environmental issues on the wildlife and the plants that we have and love so dearly, but of course are massively affected by these issues as well. And this is something that, of course, young people are really passionate about too. We want to be living in a world where we have these wonderful things to be able to share with our families, but it's looking more and more like that might not be the case if we don't change things. And I think there's also really important work happening around inclusion and diversity, and the students are very strong on those issues as well. So yes, we talk about gender diversity and those kinds of issues, but also cultural diversity, and they're wanting to understand how businesses are approaching that. And those conversations are still only starting to happen in businesses in the last 5 to 10 years. So having them start their careers when people are talking about those issues and being able to benefit from that kind of shift in the industry is, I think, something they're excited about, but also ready to face into.
And they'll be harsh on us if we don't start to deliver, and quite rightly so. And I want us to be very much a purpose-led organisation, and so it's important that we continue to have that input. I also noticed that accessibility for our clients was on the agenda there, and it's something I worry about, especially as we become more and more digital. Any comments on that?
Yeah, I think it is a really challenging issue for people to appreciate in the business. You know, it's very easy to look at things from your perspective, but we have such diverse customers, and our YAC members, we call it the YAC. It's not the greatest acronym, but I quite like it. And they are all very aware of how we need to deliver for all kinds of people. And they're starting to look at those kinds of things, even in the assignments that they do for university. It's very much coming from a perspective of how will this issue or this idea impact all kinds of stakeholders. So they're really kind of bringing that perspective to the YAC as well. And I think that's really wonderful to see, because sometimes you really do need that reminder that this, yes, it may impact this person this way, and we can see that very clearly, but how is it going to support this kind of customer as well?
I think there's some great points there. And certainly when I was reading your brief, there were some challenging things.
I'm sure.
Now, you don't get away without telling us a little bit about CAS.
Yeah.
So you came to AMP as a graduate, right?
Yes, back in the start of 2020. So I was only in the office full-time for a few weeks before we went into COVID. So very interesting time to be a graduate. But I've had, honestly, such a fantastic journey here at AMP, and that's, you know, to the full credit of Thomas and Schmidt and the team who run the grad program. They're such wonderful people and really committed to trying to develop that experience in collaboration with the grads, which is something I really based the YAC on as well. I wanted it to feel like a two-way project. I didn't want it to be run just by me. This is what you're going to do. This is how we're going to do it. It's really a kind of experience, the grad program, where it's kind of shifted and changed based on what the grads need and what they would like to experience, but also how we can see it might help the business. And it's really interesting because I think for so many years, grad programs and internships and things, it's been very focused on the development of the grads, as it should be, but there's also starting to be this kind of shift in thinking around, okay, what can a grad or an intern bring to a business? You know, how can they develop us as a workforce and a company? And that's a really exciting kind of shift to see, and I'm very lucky to have benefited from that kind of thinking when I'm started, but I'm looking forward to seeing how that can benefit other grads coming through.
So glad you said that, because I love it when the new grads come in, you get to talk to them and they challenge your thinking, and I think we all have to keep learning. And on the street the other day, I ran into a grad that helped me when I first started to use social media. I won't say how many years ago, and they told me I was a champion now, so I have learned from grads. So thanks very much for your time.
No, happy to do it. Thanks for having me.